I'm Ellen Stellian, the midlife empowerment coach and the founder of the Thrive coaching community for women 40 and over. Today, I am thrilled to introduce Suzanne Ellison. Living with chronic anxiety and depression for many years led Suzanne to wanting to know more about our mind and body and how they interact with each other. Through research and her own experiences, she learned how powerful her thoughts were in affecting her emotional and physical health. With the help of EFT, she has now cured her depression and has her anxiety back under control. And this has led her now to work with women in midlife who want to feel calm and confident about what they're capable of and be physically and emotionally healthy. So I am so excited to welcome you, Suzanne, and especially because, as I was telling you beforehand, I'm just so intrigued by the idea of EFT. So to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about what the heck is, first of all, what does EFT stand for? Because I didn't even know, explain it to people. And what's it all about? Because it's gotten some traction. It's getting, it's gotten some press out there. And I just think people might be curious about it.
Yeah, it definitely has. No, thank you very much for inviting me, Elaine. So EFT, what does EFT stand for? It stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. So it's all about, it's an alternative therapy method, which, yes, when you say it's getting more traction, it's amazing because up until, before COVID, but COVID in some ways has kind of been helpful towards alternative therapies because people are looking for anything and everything now to help them deal with anxiety, all these autoimmune illnesses we're having and anything not medical, but physical, emotionally and mentally. I mean, mental health is just getting so much exposure now. So EFT has had a real boost. And what it is, it's part of the acupressure family. So acupuncture, but instead of using needles, which is, a lot of people find that the thought of putting a needle into them. Exactly.
Yes.
So what this does is you use your fingertips instead on those key acupoints on your body. And it's all about our energy. We are energy. We are 99.6 more nines, 999% energy. So when we're not well, it's all about how our energy gets blocked. So all the, I don't know if you know the Chinese yin and yang, that's it.
Right.
With your energy and things like that. So that's what it is. But the beauty of it that I think EFT offers is that people can learn to do it for themselves, because this is it. And the important thing is what they say. And it's not that it's easy, but it's easy to become confident. There is a way of you focus on the negative, and then because you bring that to the fore, and a lot of people think, I don't want to dig up all the past. But the thing is, the thing with the EFT is it works on emotions, emotional freedom technique. So it's freedom from negative emotions associated with your past, associated with PTSD. And our body speaks our mind, and my EFT is a tool. So my focus is people understanding how powerful their thoughts are. And when they have a thought and they obsess about things and they think the same thought over and over, as you do with anxiety, anybody who's had extreme anxiety will understand what I mean by that, where you just get obsessed about a certain thought. And you just relive it, and you just experience that anxiety and that fear and that worry and that, just sweating and nausea and all those horrible symptoms. And that's emotion-based. So what EFT does is it disconnects the emotion from a situation. So if you take a car accident, you attach an emotion to that experience. You nearly die, you relive it again and again. And what they say is the greater the situation, the trauma, the greater the emotion you attach. And the greater the emotion, the more likely you are to basically get PTSD, to relive that situation over and over again. And when you tap on the emotion, you disconnect it. So it just becomes a memory. And if you take the emotion out of anything, it's just what it is. It's an argument, or it's an accident, or it's a, I don't know, you fall down or something like that. That is what it is. It's when we attach emotion to it that it becomes something significant and serious and memorable. If you think about it.
It's interesting because as you're talking, I would think more that we attach, like cognitively, we attach thoughts to things that happen rather than like emotions just are, right? We can't necessarily control our emotions. What you're saying, what resonates with me is the idea of, I don't know if it's clearing or healing or diminishing or distancing, creating some space between yourself and the emotion. I don't know if that makes sense.
You're disconnecting the emotion. So let's stick with an accident, falling off a horse, or as I say, having a car accident. You fall off a horse, you fall off a bicycle, you don't want to do it again.
Right.
If you take that emotion away, because the minute you look at that horse or you look at your car and you open the door and you go to get in, you just relive that experience all over again. That's emotion.
Yeah.
And emotions are not unexplainable fuzzy things. Emotions are actually chemical reactions.
Yeah, your body, it's like your body has that body memory that is triggering, that it's like, oh, that now I'm scared of horses, because I've fallen off a horse. Now horses are scary.
Exactly. But that's the emotion making you feel that.
Yeah.
It's not thinking that and then having the emotion. It can work both ways. It can work both ways. Right. And if you think something over and over and over again, you create its own neural pathway in your brain.
Yes.
And as well as it then becomes a habit, and the body, which experiences the emotion, then says to the brain, I know what you want. You don't have to think it. The body will just feel it now.
Right.
So,
and it'll communicate it's not safe, or it's not, you should be afraid, this is like, and it's protective. I mean, it's smart in a lot of ways, right? I mean, it's passed down through our genes, and it's from our ancestral beings. I mean, it's a smart response to protect you, unless it really sort of infringes on your freedom and your ability to live life.
Exactly. And that's the problem, is that anxiety is there, as you said, to keep us safe. But if you think of the best example that's used is when a lion is chasing an antelope or a leopard or whatever, right? That antelope is grazing. The lion leaps out and chases it. It has anxiety. It's threatened. It rushes away. The lion chases, can't catch up with it. The lion gives up. The animal literally within minutes goes back to grazing. That's anxiety. That's what it's for. It's to keep us safe. It's not for us to have an experience and then weeks and months later to still be reliving that experience. That experience is now in the past.
Yeah.
We need to forget about it, but it's the emotion that keeps it alive.
So with EFT, the tapping is a way to help clear that. You said something about there are certain things you're supposed to say while you're tapping, like positive thoughts. Is that what you said? Are you saying things while you're tapping, or are you not?
Yes. No. So you'd say, all this fear I have about driving again, all this fear, all this fear, all this fear, because you're now bringing that memory back up. Okay. Because you had an accident then, and what the body is saying is that it's now dangerous to drive a car.
Okay.
But the problem is, if you had an accident, maybe whether it was or wasn't your fault, it doesn't, you cancel out all the years you've driven before you've had an accident.
Right.
Now you just focus, right? So you want to get beyond that accident.
Yeah. So
all this fear, even though I had an accident and I nearly died, I choose to release all this fear I have about driving. Okay. And then you put in an affirmation. I've driven for so many years and I've only ever had one accident in 30 years of driving. So I choose to release this situation because I am still alive, I survived, and I still need to drive. So I choose to all this fear around the
Yeah.
accident that I had, because it doesn't mean I'll have it again.
Interesting. And you're tapping on specific places on your body where the fear is, or the emotion is held.
Acupoints where you would put needles in. So they're acupoints within our field of energy. And it creates a vibration. And it also sends the vibrations up to the amygdala where the panic happened.
Yeah.
And it calms it. It's been scientifically proven that it calms the brain, the amygdala down.
The nervous system.
Yes, it reduces the cortisol levels within seconds.
Wow. So what kind of, like, tell us a little bit about your story in terms of how did you, what you were suffering with depression, anxiety. What did you try a bunch of things and then you found EFT? Like, were some things not working and then EFT worked?
No, what happened? I was living in Africa at the time, and there were no doctors and things like that. We were talking back in the I went out there in the 80s and I left in the early 2000s. So there were no doctors or psychologists or psychiatrists and people like that. You had to cope, you had to learn. And I was just permanently stressed. My marital situation, the situation I was in, I was just permanently stressed, always wondering how we were going to pay the bills, things like that. We had 2 daughters. The one time we were actually asked to remove them from school until we paid the school fees, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's stress.
So,
that's real life right there. Yeah.
So I was a personal trainer at the time. So I was at my fittest I'd probably ever been. And I got an abscess on my kidney. And because I thought I was, superwoman, indispensable, couldn't afford to be ill, I didn't get it seen to. It got worse. Yeah. And when I did eventually go to hospital, when they opened up to see what was going on, because they thought it might be cancer of the kidney, the abscess burst and I nearly died anyways because I was then filled with septicemia. Yeah. So good news was that the doctors were amazing. They saved me. But then I thought, what's going on here? Why did that happen? Why did my body malfunction? And I then left Zambia and I came to England where I had access to the internet and information. And I started to research it. Why does our body malfunction? And of course, stress back then was just becoming well known for how it affects us. And I was already qualified as a counselor in counseling. And I was doing a hypnotherapy course when I discovered EFT in the process. And I just thought, you know what, EFT is far more, it just wowed me far more than doing hypnosis, where the person actually has to be prepared to be vulnerable with a stranger. Whereas EFT, you don't. You can
it sounds like EFT, you need to learn it from a practitioner and then you can apply it and do it on your own.
You can, yes. What I do is I actually record it like this. I do a Zoom call just like this. I tap with the person and then I give them the recording. So they can then tap again and get more confident every time I say, well, I had this happen and I felt anxious. And I'll just say to them, well, then tap and say this, and I just give them the sort of sentence to start with. And then because they've got the recording, they can check back and you just adjust the words as you go along and you experience different things. So it's about the more aware you are of your thoughts, the more you can control your anxiety and how you feel. Because when you're feeling anxious about something that happened, a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago, which is what PTSD is remembering things so far ago, you're actually reliving your past. You're not making new experiences and new memories. So you want to disconnect that. And my message as a result of my story is that I want women especially to understand the power of what they speak and how that there's now scientific proof that when we hold all that anxiety in and all that stress, it is reflected through our body, which is predominantly what autoimmune illnesses is, which is why doctors just shrug their shoulders because it's stress-based.
Wow.
And there's no medication for that.
So what kinds of it sounds like EFT is particularly helpful in healing trauma. I mean, can it heal a bunch of other things too?
The thing with EFT is it deals with your emotions. And when you are anxious all the time, 24/7. So I put a post in I don't know if I think it was actually your group saying, does your anxiety disrupt your ability to work as well as you want to, be productive in your business? And I got over 100 replies saying, yes, yeah, absolutely, completely. Doesn't everybody? And it was like, no, everybody doesn't. There's anxiety, like we said just now, but then there's this ongoing anxiety where the minute you wake up, you're looking for how you feel. That's how we identify who we are. And if you're anxious all the time, then you're releasing adrenaline and cortisol into your system every minute of the day. You're drip feeding it. And that then affects your cells, which break down. It suppresses your immune system. And that's where you let illness in. So the origin is the thoughts you have. But we only know that when our body starts to break down and we start getting ill.
And so is it a practice like, I don't know how long it took you for EFT to really help you with your depression and your anxiety? Like, is it a daily thing? Is it something it takes years and then you've got to maintain it every day kind of thing?
So we're experiencing traumas and challenging situations throughout our life, right? So if you think of EFT as a tool, then when you become aware, because 98% of our thoughts is autopilot, we automatically think them without even being aware that we do. 5% of our thoughts is conscious. That's our logic thinking. So 98% of what we think and do is on autopilot. It's what we programmed, whether we know it or not. So if you become aware of your thoughts and you feel yourself becoming anxious and you say to yourself, is there anything in this moment to make me anxious? And there's not, then you tap to release this anxiety, because at this moment, I am safe.
Right.
So you're telling yourself, you're telling your subconscious, the reptilian part of your brain, as they call it, that you are safe. And because what happens is feeling anxious 24/7 becomes a habit. So you want to break the habit. And the only way you're going to break the habit is becoming aware, locking in your conscious thinking, your manual thinking, and thinking, oh, hang on, I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling depressed. There's nothing going on around me to justify that. Why am I feeling that? Because my body is reacting to something that's happened in my past, which means you're now reliving your past instead of moving forward and disconnecting your past and saying, okay, your past is there to learn from, but not to relive day after day after day, 10 years later. So
what if you're anxious about something that's coming up? Like, I'm anxious about a meeting I'm having or a difficult conversation I need to have. What if it's something, is it always have to do with healing a difficult something from the past?
No, but if you think about it, you're anxious about the meeting coming up because you've had a negative experience, or your perception and your beliefs about having a meeting is that it's nerve-wracking, it's scary, and I might not be good enough. Or maybe you've had failed meetings in the past where you've
or like, I'm worried about how somebody's going to respond to me. Like, I'm going to have a difficult conversation with a friend and I'm worried she's going to, yell at me, or she's going to say, I'm done with our friendship. Let's say, something like that.
So you're already anticipating something that you don't know. So you tap on that. Tap on that. I choose to release this anxiety I feel about seeing my friend, because she might be angry with me, but there's no reason for her to be angry with me. And if you're taking that anxiety with you, you're already sort of predetermining what kind of situation you're going to be facing.
Right.
If you're chilled out, and I don't know, and it's amazing. It's I get a bit of an overlap with spiritualism in that when they say when you face your fears, the fear, the what you fear falls away, because fear is what we create in our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're going back to the type of thoughts we have. And the whole point with EFT that I want people to know is that it's a tool. And in the moment when you're feeling anxious, you can tap and just put yourself back into a neutral place.
So it works. Like, how long does it take to go through I know there's a sequence of tapping. Like, does it take a little while, or?
No, it's literally, these are the main tapping points.
Okay.
And down here, over here, two soft spots on the side here. And that's it. You just tap them. All this anxiety, or if you're in a public place, and this is what I mean, if you're in a public place and you start to have a panic attack or an anxiety attack, you can just tap discreetly and just say, I choose to release all this anxiety. I choose to release, because you're acknowledging what's happening. You're not letting your subconscious take over. You're not letting your body take over. You're letting you're engaging your conscious mind, and you're saying, in this moment, there's nothing for me to be scared of. Even if I'm going for an interview, there's nothing for me to be scared of.
Because you're reassuring. It's like you're providing yourself and your amygdala some like conscious reassurance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I wanted to take just a second to thank Wendy and Anne Marie and Sally for being here live. If you guys have any questions, put them in the comments, because I know Suzanne is here to answer them. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's our body. Our body is hardwired to keep us safe at the end of the day. So every time you become anxious, your body is reacting to something that's already happened in the past, and it's saying this situation is similar, so let's not go there.
Yeah.
And if you're stuck, if people talk about imposter syndrome, just having anxiety, self-esteem issues, things like that, if you stop and say, why do I have these issues? Where is this coming from? It invariably comes from our past. It comes from our childhood.
Right. Something we heard growing up, something we felt, we dealt with. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that our childhood is determines so much, right?
Yeah. So if you stop and ask yourself, why am I feeling anxious? Why does this make me feel this way? Whatever. Why am I angry? It goes back to our beliefs, and our thoughts come from our beliefs. And what I say is that we're born into an environment of beliefs. So often we don't even know that we have some of the beliefs we do, because as kids, we absorb what our parents say.
Yeah, we're not choosing them. We're not saying, that I like that one, but that one doesn't sit with me. I mean, later on in our lives, we can do that. But as children, we're just sponges. We're just absorbing the environment.
Exactly. And when was the last time somebody said to you, what are your beliefs? Do all the beliefs you have support what you want in your life?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Nobody asks that. I mean, in coaching a little bit, but in our lives, day to day, we don't stop and think about those things.
Yeah, this is it. Nobody teaches that when you're going through school or anything.
Right.
I mean, most of us go, oh, I'm not going to be like my parents.
Right.
But you don't actually, we say that, but do we actually know why we say that? What are we saying? And what we're saying is, we're not going to have the beliefs and understandings that our parents have. But I don't think a lot of people really appreciate that is the basis of what they're saying. They're not saying, well, what are my other beliefs that I've got that are programming me and I'm not aware of?
Yeah, no, exactly.
So there's so much people can do for themselves, and
so what's realistic in terms of expectation as to, dealing, like how long would it take if you were depressed for EFT to help you? I mean, is it like an incremental little tool that you use that you add on to other things? Is it, in your case, it sounds like EFT really helped you tremendously.
It did for me, yes. And you can do it together. I mean, people do it with their affirmations, they do it with journaling, they do it with meditation. Yes, anything like that. They're all, you can't go wrong with any of them unless you're going to tap to say, I'm a horrible person. And who would do
is the medical and psychological community, like, what is their perspective on EFT? Are they like, oh my God, that's like so out there? Or is it getting more traction and acceptance as people try to meld the Western and Eastern approaches?
Yeah. So that is what it is, the Eastern and Western. And the person who, he didn't discover it, but he brought it to the market, as I say, is a guy, he's still alive, called Gary Craig. And he practiced it first on people coming back from war who had PTSD. Wow. And they had such good results, but it still was very much alternative therapy. It was energy, it was woo-woo. Right. They don't actually use that word now. Here in England, EFT has finally been recognized by our medical body, the National Health Service. And it's about, well, God, COVID has whacked everything out in terms of, so it's probably about
time. What is time? Yes.
Yeah, it's probably about 5 years ago that the American body, AAMET, which represented EFT, has now got a branch here in England, and that our National Health Services has recognized it just as a viable method of helping people with stress. So
do you think it's actually accepted in the US even more so? Yeah. So it sounds like it was first,
pioneered. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. But the key thing, if anybody does it, because there's lots of videos on YouTube on how to do it. And the key thing when you do it for yourself is to use words that are specific to what you are addressing. Right. So, if your shoulder's out, make sure you say this pain in my left shoulder, not just my shoulder and things like that. And because so many people have tried EFT and said, oh, it's rubbish, it doesn't work. But it's very hard for us to find the roots of our own issues. So in that sense, having a practitioner help you initially, and then if there's recurring, you can tap for yourself and say, I choose to release this remaining pain or things like that. And that's predominantly psychological. Another aspect of EFT, which another very well-known practitioner does, she focuses purely on athletes. And her thing is that when we hurt ourselves physically, the trauma is held, the memory of the trauma is held in the cells of our body. So she uses EFT predominantly on the physiological side of things, as opposed to someone like me who deals with the psychological. I deal with thoughts and how thoughts impact our health.
So tell us more about how you work with your clients, like what people come to you with and how you approach your work with them.
So my main focus is women, because of my story, and I left in my 40s. I left my marriage, I left my home, all my businesses in my 40s. And in the old days, it was the men who had midlife crises, and went off and got the sports car and the young blonde and all that. Well, what I found when I came back to England was that women, there's like an epidemic of women who are all saying, oh, I did the corporate, I did 25 years in corporate, and I was this, but I want to serve people now. I want to come out of that. I have a higher calling. So it's women in midlife who, there's that voice within you that telling you that you're here for something bigger and better, but you don't quite know what it is. And a lot of our conditioning, especially I think for women, even the ones now in their 40s upwards, there's still that conditioning that women's place in the world is this, and we know it's so much bigger.
Yes.
So there's so much conditioning that holds women back from reaching out for what they want, stepping out, stepping up, having a voice, being seen, being heard. And it's all going back to childhood. It's all to do with, not entirely, but it's to do with relationships they've had in the past, childhood issues, just general beliefs they have about themselves. And it's helping women let go of all that and understand how every thought that they have has, is energy, and emotions are energy and motion. And when you release that negative, so I call it emotional surgery. You need to have emotional surgery on yourself for all the negativity that's built up in your life, and clear it out so you can get emotional freedom to go out into the world and actually embrace it and show up as you truly want to be.
Wow, that is so powerful. And so EFT is one of the ways you help people,
EFT,
clear that negative energy.
Yeah, it worked for me. And I just think you can do it for yourself. And it's so empowering. The first time I was sort of playing around with it and doing it in therapy. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do this seriously, I need to do it on myself. And my daughters were still flying back to Zambia to see their dad, which I encouraged, and I made a point that they did that, but I used to still get upset when they went. And I tapped on myself for the first time ever. I thought, right, nobody's around, because it was it is a bit weird when you start and all that sort of thing, And I just felt this really heavy black, and this is it, you describe it, this really heavy blackness in my heart, over my heart, this part of my chest. And I tapped on it, and I knew exactly why I was feeling like that, because my daughters were going to get on a plane and I wasn't going to see them for X amount of weeks. And I said, this is what I want. This is all about them. It's not about me. Let it go. And the only way I can describe it is, when you're doing the washing up and the bubbles start breaking up, or a bubble bath.
Yeah.
And it was like that. It felt like that. This heaviness just turned into bubbles that just kind of, and became
dissipated.
like,
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, that was, you don't always feel it so physically like that, but in that case I did. And it was just like, oh my God, that's the most amazing feeling. and I was good. I sort of, that sadness, that heaviness disappeared.
Wow.
It was fun, because it was an emotion.
That sounds amazing. Wow. Well, you know what? I mean, this has given us a really good overview of what EFT is, how it can be used to release some of those negative emotions, to, like you said, free us to be all that we can be, and to, be in the light, and let go of some of the darkness and the heaviness that can weigh us down and limit us in our lives. And I love that you work with women in midlife, because I think that's a perfect time to assess those, what are all those thoughts? What are all those feelings that are really weighing me down now? And like, it's never too late. Like, now's the time. If you're going to do it, like, now's the time.
It is never too late. And the really key thing, people say, oh, people can't change. Leopards don't change their spots. But the thing is, your brain, scientifically proven, because it's really important that people don't just think it is woo-woo and, alternative. Scientifically proven that our brain shrinks and grows till the day we die. Wow. So every time you learn something new, your brain creates new neural pathways. And when you don't use information, which is why we don't remember stuff from school, because we don't use the mathematics and pi and geometry and all that. So what you learn that created a neural pathway and you don't use gets pruned back, which is why you're less likely to remember it. And it makes space for new knowledge that you do learn, which creates new neural pathways.
Exactly. I mean, that's why they say use it or lose it. I mean, that's the whole thing with neural pathways. You've got to, and also shows you that you can, change those neural pathways with practice, but it's like honing that groove enough that it becomes more habitual.
Yeah. But for people who are in their 40s and 50s and onwards, it doesn't matter what age you are.
Yeah.
You have the ability to change if you want to.
Right.
And it goes back to the power of your thoughts. If you think it enough, it will happen, because you're creating a neural pathway. You're putting that energy out there, so you're attracting it back to you.
Love it.
And that's the message I want women to understand. Women in midlife, women who have put themselves out for everybody else for the first 20 or 30 years of their life, and are now saying it's my time.
Yeah.
And they can do it. They can do it.
You are preaching to the choir, sister. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on with me. I am going to put Suzanne's website in the comments. I am also going to put her lovely offer of a complimentary one-on-one, and I'm going to put that link in there. Do you want to say anything about that, Suzanne? It's just a way to kind of meet and greet kind of thing.
It is. It's seriously. It's not a sales call. It's about people who don't know what they want, don't know where they're going, don't know what's holding them back. And I just help you join the dots up. That's all. It's because once you get that understanding, a lot of people can just go forward on their own. They once they get that information, they sort out why they, can't get the results they want. Sometimes it just takes a conversation, and it's not daunting. Yes, I make a living from it, but I make a living from the people who come to me and say, can you help me? Not from the conversations.
Yeah. Well, that is so generous of you to offer that. That's such a gift. We really appreciate it. And I don't know, it's just been really interesting talking to you. I've learned so much. I know our viewers have too, and it'll be really interesting to see what the comments say. But I want to thank you again for spending the time with us and educating us on this, and giving us some a really good idea of what EFT is and how it can help us. Everybody, thank you for joining us as well. Don't forget to check out the links I'll be putting in the comments. And certainly if you enjoy this series, please watch for more. Until then, be well and stay safe, everybody. Bye.
Bye.